love to talk about almost as much as his cats. Almost.
Almost.
Cyrus has his gear on. He's ready to exercise right now.
That's right. I already warmed up. I did a bunch of push-ups. I stretched. I'm ready. Let's do this.
We're talking about exercise tonight, guys. We're glad to have you with us. In the chat box, let us know where you're coming from. It's going to be a poll that is going to ask you what type of diabetes you're living with. Maybe you're not living with diabetes and you're a healthcare provider. Maybe a loved one has diabetes. Let us know. You can vote, and we'll look at the results as they come in.
Absolutely. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today we're giving an award. We're giving a huge shout out to somebody who's from, let's do somewhere realistic. If you are from Saskatchewan, it's Boxing Day. Do they celebrate?
I think there's a good chance that somebody is from Saskatchewan.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to give a prize to somebody from Saskatchewan and then anybody from the UK, anywhere in the UK, because today is Boxing Day, and I know Boxing Day is a big deal. If you follow soccer and are watching the Premier League, like I am, you would have hopefully watched a lot of the games today. So anyone from the UK, anyone from Saskatchewan, you guys are prized attendees today.
Let us know in the chat box.
Yep. How's that poll looking?
Well, we have 45% with type 2 diabetes. We have 15% with prediabetes. Type 1 coming in strong again at 15%. I like it.
Yeah, I like it. Oh, we got Kevin from Oxford, UK. Yeah, Kevin, nice work. You watch a bunch of Premier League today? I hope so. Oh, we said go Wolves. Boom. Sajib. Wolves. I had Jimenez on my fantasy team. Didn't do anything. Terrible. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about exercise. Exercise is one of my favorite subjects of all. It's not just fun to talk about, it's actually fun to do. In the chat box right now, here's what I want to know from you guys. If you actually truly enjoy exercise, like you really love it and you look forward to doing it, write the letter X. Just put an X in the chat box. Okay, X means exercise is fun. Glenda clearly loves it. I like it. Okay, I want to see how many people actually truly do enjoy it. Jag, Erwin, I love it. Jackie, Lisa with a double X. Ashwini with an X. Okay, Chris, Junko, good. Martha, Patricia, swimming only. Okay, this is awesome. Okay, I'm glad to see that. Now, if you truly do not like exercise, as in like I don't like exercise, it's not fun for me, I just feel weird doing it, then give me an O, the letter O. Put that in the chat box. Yeah, I want to see that one too. There's a bunch of X's coming in. Debbie, Chris, Vincent, JB, Nick. Robbie puts in an X. Okay. Marie puts in an X. Glenda. Oh, Glenda put in an O? I thought she said yes. Carol, Bruce. Glenda, you're confusing me. Maybe it's a different Glenda. Marie, Carol, Bruce, Glenda, Marta with a double O, Valerie, Carrie, Carrie Ann with an O. Okay, so we got a combo of X's and O's. Donna with a quadruple O. Holy shnikey. Okay. Looks like we got double Glenda today. Okay, so I can see that there's dos Glendas. Yes. So I can see that there's sort of a combination. There's some people who really don't like exercise and some people who do like exercise. What I want to talk about today is the why of exercise, because it's important. Exercise is part of a lifestyle that's going to reduce your risk for chronic disease, diabetes being one of them. And exercise is really important for blood glucose management, like really important for blood glucose management. It's one of the most powerful tools that you have at your disposal. So if you don't love exercise, take a deep breath. I get it. I understand where you're coming from. My goal on tonight is not to convince you that you love exercise. I don't think I'm going to win. I'm not going to succeed at that. My goal here is to educate you as to why exercise is so powerful, and then to give you just a little bit of an impetus to just go do something and see some immediate results. That's one of the best parts about exercise. It's like instant gratification. And in this world that we live in, where we have Facebook and Instagram and no push notifications on your phone and everything's happening instantly on demand, Netflix and Instacart. Instant gratification has become sort of a way of life for many people. Exercise is instant gratification, and that's one of the reasons why it's so good.
Cyrus, we live in a world now where email is too slow.
Yeah. I know. It's mind-blowing. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
In fact, actually listening to other people talk is too slow for me too. I need faster.
Yeah, you go 2x, 1.5x on the videos.
That's right. Yeah, that makes my life a lot simpler. Okay. All right. So we have a total of 176 people here. Tell us what's the result of the poll, and then we can actually move on.
Okay, so the final result is 11% with type 1 diabetes. That's great. 14% with prediabetes, 45% with type 2. We have 0 gestational diabetes, but 13% don't have diabetes, and 30% here are a loved one has diabetes, and we have no healthcare providers.
0.
0.
Oh, okay. I guess healthcare providers don't exercise.
No.
Don't like it. Don't care about exercise. Okay. So I want to have one more question in the comment. Carrie Ann writes, I want to start loving exercise because when I do it, I feel really good. Okay. That is an awesome comment, Carrie Ann. When you exercise, you feel really good. Most people tell me, I say, hey, do you like exercise? And I get the response I get from most people is they go, I don't like the during, I like the after, right? You feel like you've expended a lot of energy. You feel, lighter. You feel like you've gotten a lot of work out of the way. Your blood glucose might be lower. You might just have like a clearer head. There's 1,000 reasons why exercise feels good. Most people are like, oh yeah, just give me that after feeling. But the during, can we just like skip that? Like the actual hard work, this is like not fun. Okay. So again, my goal is to try and incentivize you and give you guys the why as to why exercise is such a good deal. Give me, if you are like Carrie Ann and you want to like exercise, maybe you don't love it right now, but you want to like it and you want to become better at it, give me a W in the chat box. Okay. That's what I want to see now. So again, X means I love exercise. O means heck no, get me away from it. And W means I'm open-minded. I want to like it.
Cyrus, I have a circuit breaker. Can you hear that circuit breaker?
No, I can't.
I mean, it sounds like it's about to explode. I don't know what to do right now. if it's not annoying people, then I'll just live with it.
No, I can't hear anything. Okay, Carol, Sajeev, Trevor, Patricia, Carrie, Gina, Marta, Amy, Kumar, Marie, Miriam, Michael, Bruce, Karen, Davidson, LAS, Corinne, Gina, Chris, Carrie Ann, Valerie, Deborah, Louie, Barbara, Susan, Christy, Donna. Okay, there's a ton of, I'd say there's probably more W's than there is anything. Okay, so it looks like what we're honing in on is that there's some people who like it, there's some people who don't like it, but the majority of you, I think, want to like it. Let's see what we can do here. I think we're gonna have some fun. Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, where is it? Here we go. Please hold.
Cyrus, I gotta admit, I am really nervous about this circuit breaker situation because if I lose power,
yeah,
I'm pretty sure the entire webinar shuts down.
Okay, so you heard from Robbie. So again, I'm going to talk in double time. I'm going to talk really fast. Okay, we're going to do this entire webinar in the next 11 minutes just to spare Robbie's internet. Okay, let's have some fun over here. So you guys heard it here. If the webinar just magically shuts off, it's Robbie's fault.
100%. Come join us on Instagram Live if that happens. I'm actually not exaggerating. If this thing shuts down, we will go to Instagram Live and we can have Cyrus and I on the Mastering Diabetes account.
Okay. And then I'm also going to drop Robbie's personal cell phone number into the chat box, and you can feel free to tell him how much you disapprove of his internet service.
Oh, man.
Okay. Here we go. All right. Tell me if you can see my screen.
Yeah, I can see it. It looks good.
Okay, here we go. So today we're talking about exercise and the science of lowering your blood glucose. In case you haven't been on a webinar before, I'm a huge fan of science. We love science because science is a simple way to explain complicated concepts. So here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to cover 5 important topics. Number 1, why is exercise a substitute for insulin and oral medications? You may have heard me say this in the past, that exercise is literally a substitute for insulin. So we're going to talk about why that's the case. Number 2, we'll talk about the nitty-gritty details of mitochondria. What are they? Where are they located? And why are they so important in helping you reverse insulin resistance and prediabetes and type 2? We'll give you some strategies to move your body and actually enjoy the process, heaven forbid. And then we can also talk about how to troubleshoot your blood glucose when exercise causes it to go up, because that can happen. And then we're going to give you some information here as to what are some of the best exercises that you can perform to maximize your insulin sensitivity. All right. You guys probably know me by now. There's like 175 of you in the room. You've probably all heard my spiel, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. But over the course of the last, it's 17 years now, I've been able to utilize the Mastering Diabetes Method lifestyle, the Mastering Diabetes lifestyle, which is a combination of low-fat, plant-based, whole food nutrition, plus frequent movement, plus intermittent fasting when necessary, plus decision trees or documentation in order to achieve very good results living with diabetes. My diabetes health used to be out of control. I used to have blood glucose that was all over the place. And I used to eat a pretty meat-heavy, saturated fat-heavy diet. I switched over to a plant-based diet, dropped my total fat intake, and it's literally changed everything from the inside out. Over the course of the last 17 years, I've been able to reduce my insulin use by 40%, and it's gotten down to sort of its like minimum. I can't really use less insulin. And my carbohydrate to insulin ratio is the highest it's ever been. It's phenomenal, and I love it. On a daily basis, I eat more than 700 grams of carbohydrate per day. I actually wrote that statistic down, I don't know, maybe like 2 years ago. And then last week, I was like, am I lying? Am I actually quoting a real number? Like, do I actually eat 700 grams of carbohydrate? So I started filling out these little mini decision trees, and I carry these things with me because it's fun. And my wife, Kylie, helps me out with them because it really helps me zone in on exactly what's happening. And my carbohydrate intake is like, on one day it was 700, on the other day it was 725. Then there was a day where it was 450, it was a little low. And then today it's already up in the 680s and I haven't even eaten dinner yet. So the answer is, yeah, I eat 700 grams plus per day. And I'm still able to get away using, 25 units of insulin per day, which is a pretty ridiculous ratio. And the best of all is that my A1C values are nice and stable between 5.4 and 5.7, which is technically a non-diabetic value. And I love that. As you can see here, I'm wearing no shirt. And the reason for that is because I live in Costa Rica. It's hot. I don't wear a shirt most of my life, and I love it. But in addition to that, I exercise every single day. I love it. It's something that I use to work on my own personal physique because I like looking fit. I also really enjoy being strong, and I like having a lot of endurance. So if you have seen me without my shirt on, or if you will see me without my shirt on in the future, just know that that's me in my native habitat, and it's something that's actually integral to my overall lifestyle.
Yep, that is definitely Cyrus's uniform right there. No question. Okay, so yeah, like Cyrus said, I'm sure you guys have heard our stories before. So I kind of want to add to that conversation Cyrus was talking about. Like, do we actually eat that many grams of carbohydrate? And even to this day, I mean, it's 13 years now of eating a low-fat, plant-based, whole food diet, just like we teach here at Mastering Diabetes. And I'll eat a meal. I mean, I think, for breakfast today, I think it was like over 200 grams of carbohydrate. It was bananas and carrot powder. This amazing smoothie. And I injected, I believe it was 3.5 units. And still to this day, sometimes I'm like, man, is that really going to be enough? Is that really going to be enough insulin to cover that? And it continues to work out. So, and again, we love to talk about this because insulin sensitivity is really important, and it's important for people living with all forms of diabetes. So it's something we like to share. And we've obviously had challenging pasts of dealing with being insulin resistant. So when I did a low carbohydrate diet, plant-based keto diet, I was at 3-to-1. Every 1 unit of insulin would cover 3 grams of carbohydrate over a 24-hour period. And then as I improved my insulin sensitivity, it changed by over 600%. The total carbohydrate to insulin ratios changed by over 600%. So that's amazing. Being active every day has obviously, part of it is doing the diet that gives you the energy to be active. And that's part of what we're going to talk about tonight and why that's beneficial. And that plate right there, those are candy striped figs. I wish everybody could have them on the inside. They're red. They are juicy, delicious, great food. So if you want to learn how to eat these foods to get more energy, which is then going to get you to want to move your body and enjoy it, then you're in the right place. So let's get started.
Nice. Okay, so today's webinar is about the science of why exercise lowers your blood glucose, to put it in a nutshell. Okay, exercise is a incredibly powerful tool. You're going to learn about why. Here's me. Okay, I told you I don't wear a shirt. This is true. This is me in a CrossFit competition. When was this? This was in August, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe a little before that. But this is me in my native habitat one more time. I love exercise. Like it is an obsession for me, literally an obsession for me on a daily, like on Christmas as an example, I woke up and I was like, I want to move my body. So I went to the gym when no one else was there and I got a workout in because I have an obsession, and I know I do, and I love it. But the beauty is that being able to perform exercise and doing it frequently helps me manage my blood glucose so well that from, if you just looked at a piece of paper that had all my sort of, lipid panel and A1C and biometrics on it, you probably would not be able to tell that I have diabetes at all. And that's one of the benefits of being able to move your body and move it as much as you want. So the whole conversation about exercise focuses on mitochondria. You guys have probably heard mitochondria in the past. I've asked about this on previous webinars, and we've talked about it in some of our summit interviews. Mitochondria are the powerhouses of the cellular world. Okay, their specific response, they have many responsibilities, but one of their primary responsibilities is to manufacture ATP, which is the cellular form of energy. And they do so by quote unquote oxidizing or burning glucose and fatty acids and amino acids. So they are these, imagine you had a house, okay? The house is the structure of the overall cell. The mitochondria within the house are just something smaller. So the mitochondria would be something like a chair. Okay, so you have like a chair inside of a larger house, and it's the chair that's the thing that's responsible for producing a lot of energy for the house itself. Maybe a chair is a bad example. Maybe it would be like a toaster oven. Imagine a toaster oven could actually produce energy in your house, right? Now, mitochondria are, like we said, you take glucose or fatty acids or amino acids. These are 3 different types of fuel that you get from food. And these 3 compounds or types of compounds can get sent to the mitochondria inside of cells, and then cells basically say, hey, cool, thanks, I appreciate that. Let me turn that stuff into ATP. And then ATP is generated, and then that cell's like, hey, cool, I got that ATP. Now I can go perform a number of cellular reactions, and those cellular reactions occur in the nucleus, in the endoplasmic reticulum, in the membrane, you name it. But that ATP is like the lifeblood of a cell that enables it to stay alive. So the question is, where are mitochondria located? So in the chat box, here's what I want you guys to put in. I want you to name the tissues that you know of that have mitochondria in them. Go. See what kind of responses we get here.
Okay, let's see what we get in the chat box. What tissues have mitochondria?
Yep.
Sajiv says muscle cells.
Muscle. Cool.
Lisa says all cells. Randy says all tissues. Chris says cells. Miriam says all tissues. Kristen says all. Carrie Ann says liver. Martha says every cell. Kumar says cells. Kevin says they are everywhere. Christy says all cells. Judy says muscles.
Okay, so the answer is yes, they're everywhere. They are in all tissues. I'm going to fact check myself because I think red blood cells don't have mitochondria, but I'm going to 100%. I'm going to check that real quick. But the idea here is that they're all over the place. Okay, they are located in your brain. They are densely packed inside of your brain. They are densely packed inside of your muscle. They are densely packed inside of your heart tissue. They're densely packed inside of blood vessels. They're in your kidneys. They're in your adipose tissue. They are everywhere. They're in your prostate gland. They're in your spleen. You name it. Like I said earlier, people say, "Oh, they're in all tissues." The truth of the matter is that red blood cells in your blood are considered a type of cell. There's billions of them. They do not contain mitochondria. That's the only cell type, to my knowledge, that doesn't contain mitochondria. Every other cell in your body does, which means, just do the math. You have trillions of cells in your body, and each cell can possess a single copy or as many as 4,000 copies of mitochondria. So what that means is that you have probably hundreds of trillions, if not, what's beyond a trillion? A gazillion? A Googleplex number of mitochondria in your body. Okay, now when it comes to muscle tissue, we're going to focus on muscle tissue today because we're talking about exercise, and muscle is where the bulk of exercise takes place. Okay, so you have three different types of muscle tissue in your body. You have the red muscle shown on the left-hand side, you got the mixed muscle in the middle, and then you got the white muscle on the right-hand side. All three of these types of muscle exist inside of different places in your body. Okay. So how does it get its name? The reason it's called white or mixed or red is because if I were to cut you open and I were to examine different muscle tissues in your body, some of the muscle tissues would be darker, some of them would be lighter, and some of them would be in between. And the density of mitochondria in the tissue is one of the things that governs just how colorful or how red the tissue is. So if I were to cut open your gastrocnemius, your calf muscle as an example, there's sections of your calf muscle which are highly white muscle tissue, and then there's also sections of your calf muscle which are highly oxygenated and red. Okay, so within one muscle tissue, you might have a little bit of white, you might have a little bit of red. The white muscle tissue is considered lower mitochondrial content. The red is considered highest mitochondrial content. These muscles tend to use more glucose as a fuel. These tend to use more fatty acids as a fuel, just as like a general rule of thumb. Okay, so these also happen to be faster twitch muscle fibers on the right-hand side, and these tend to be slightly slower twitch muscle fibers. Point being is that you have multiple different types of muscle, and they're all over the place. Now, when it comes to how many copies of mitochondria you have per muscle cell, on the right-hand side, these has the lowest mitochondrial density. So the lowest mitochondrial density could be anywhere between 1,000 to 2,000 copies of mitochondria per cell. That'd be like walking into your house and seeing that you have 1,000 toaster ovens. It's a lot of toaster ovens, okay? So don't think of mitochondria as just being like one thing that's hanging out inside the cell. We're talking thousands of copies inside of each individual cell, okay? The mixed muscle tissue has somewhere between 2,000 and 4,000 copies per cell, and then the red muscle tissue has sometimes higher than 4,000 copies of mitochondria per cell. Okay, so there's a lot of mitochondria. They're all over the place, and they're incredibly important. Now, your lifestyle influences what happens to your mitochondria. So if you're eating a diet that's either high in saturated fat in particular, or it's high in sugar, when I say sugar, I mean refined sugar like high fructose corn syrup, or refined sucrose, or dextrose, or xylitol, mannitol, xylitose, any of these sort of manufactured sugars. Okay, high fat, high sugar diet can significantly decrease the health of mitochondria. And or if you live in a lifestyle where you are performing no exercise or you are performing a small amount of exercise, all three of these lifestyle behaviors create these things in mitochondria known as free radicals. Free radicals are pains in the butt. They're like these redheaded stepchildren. They're like Dennis the Menace. They're electronically unstable molecules that, when generated, are looking for a way to become more electronically stable. In other words, these are compounds that have lost one single electron. And if you were to take any compound and remove one electron from it, that compound becomes very unstable. And then it goes and it looks for places where it can find an extra electron to make it more electronically stable. So these free radicals are things that you want to avoid, and mitochondria are one location where free radicals can be generated in very large quantities. Again, if you're living a lifestyle that promotes free radical production. Now, free radicals are pains in the butt because, again, they're looking for extra electron. So where are they going to find that electron? Well, electrons tend to be, there's regions of DNA that are extremely electron rich. So if a free radical is generated in the mitochondria, and the mitochondria can get access to DNA, then it's going to go get access to DNA. So in order to do that, free radicals can actually impact mitochondrial DNA inside of the mitochondria themselves, because mitochondria have their own DNA. And they can also gain access to the nucleus, in which case they can actually go and interact with nuclear DNA, which causes a much, much bigger problem. So free radicals interacting with DNA in any way, shape, or form is a bad idea. Free radicals can also interact with proteins, because proteins have very specific regions where there's a lot of electrons. So these free radicals can now start to bombard cellular proteins, whether they're in the membrane, whether they're in the mitochondria, whether they're in the endoplasmic reticulum, whether they're in the nucleus, it doesn't matter. Wherever there are proteins, free radicals will follow. This process is called oxidative stress or protein oxidation, and it's something that can dramatically alter the function of a protein and eventually cause cellular death. Free radicals can also bombard lipids, and lipids are all over the place. They're in the membrane of the mitochondria, they're in the cellular membrane, and they're on the internal, they're inside of cells as well. And so when free radicals are generated, they can also directly interact with lipids, and when they do that, they cause lipid peroxidation, and lipid peroxidation is, again, another thing that can significantly increase the risk of cellular death. So you want to avoid free radical production. That's the long and short of what I'm trying to say. And remember, mitochondria are everywhere. They're in every single tissue, which means that when you're generating free radicals, because of mitochondrial stress, those free radicals can be generated in tissues all over your body. You can get free radical production in your brain, and that's not a good thing. You get free radical production inside of your brain, you end up with things like brain fog, headaches, cognitive decline, Alzheimer's disease, dementia over the course of time. These are all things that you do not want. These are all markers of an unhealthy brain. Free radical production inside of mitochondria can also impact the way that your adipose tissue behaves. Your adipose tissue can become inflamed, and we spoke about that on last week's webinar. This is a thing called macrophage infiltration, which is a really big pain in the butt. In addition to that, free radical generation inside of your kidneys can increase your risk for chronic kidney disease. It can increase your risk for coronary artery disease. It can increase your risk for muscular inflammation. Muscular inflammation can manifest in a number of ways. It can just feel like soreness and tightness. It can progress to things like fibromyalgia, connective tissue disorders, autoimmune diseases, and those are all terrible. Okay, and free radicals that are produced inside of red blood cells or white blood cells inside of your vasculature can also make your vasculature a very unhappy place to be. So, in the chat box, here's what I want to know. Explain if you have any of the following symptoms on a daily basis. Okay, and the symptoms would be things like I feel low energy. Okay, that is a symptom of mitochondrial dysfunction. It can be a symptom of mitochondrial dysfunction. You can also have brain fog, inability to think, inability to concentrate, poor memory, any kind of brain issues. You might have frequent headaches. You might be gaining weight and not knowing exactly why. You might have heart disease, atherosclerosis, type 2 diabetes, or maybe obese. So if any of these things are affecting you on a daily basis, then please tell me what they are in the chat box, because I'm not saying that all of them are a direct result of mitochondrial inflammation, but they are all absolutely influenced by the health of mitochondria.
Okay, so I see weight gain, anxiety, low energy, brain fog and poor memory, type 2 diabetes, low energy, type 2, low energy, brain fog, and type 2 diabetes, low energy, all of them. Type 2 diabetes and atherosclerosis, headaches, low energy, type 2 diabetes, obesity, sore muscles and joints, low energy brain fog, low energy type 2 diabetes. 5 of the 8 listed, crazy anxiety, type 2, low energy, type 2, low energy, brain fog, weight gain.
Okay, so it sounds like
I'm glad you guys are here. I'm going to start with that.
it sounds like one of the things that keeps on popping. There's two things that keep on popping up. Number one, low energy. Number two, type 2 diabetes. Those are the two most frequent comments that we're seeing in the chat box.
Yes.
Okay. So I remember when I used to feel low energy when I was first diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. It felt terrible. I also had thyroid dysfunction that was developing at that time, and I didn't know how to handle that. Feeling low energy sucks. It is not fun. So those of you who are feeling that way, I feel for you. I know exactly what it feels like. And I'd like to help you get out of that feeling and actually have a much more vibrant lifestyle where you feel very high energy and you don't necessarily worry about whether or not you're going to feel terrible, especially for many hours at a time. Okay, now, this is something that very, very few people know. Okay, this is the chicken and egg relationship. This is sort of like the take-home message of today's webinar. Okay, there is a chicken and egg relationship between mitochondria and insulin resistance. And this is what it looks like. Dysfunctional mitochondria over here on the left-hand side, when this condition progresses over the course of time, specifically inside of your muscle tissue and specifically inside of your liver tissue, lots of dysfunctional mitochondria plus a long period of time equals insulin resistance. In other words, when mitochondria inside of your muscle tissue become less functional, they generate more free radicals, they're producing less energy, they're producing less waste heat. Effectively, the thermostat inside of your muscle tissue has been turned down. So your muscle tissue is less active, it's less able to produce energy, it's less thermodynamically active. As a result of that, the tissue itself becomes more dormant. And it's harder to get things into the tissue. It's harder to get things out of the tissue. So the tissue almost kind of goes into this state of almost like a hibernation in a way. And that's not a good thing as far as insulin and glucose is concerned, because it's hard to get glucose into the tissue. It's hard to get insulin to do anything to the tissue. And as a result of that, this thing called insulin resistance builds up over the course of time, and glucose gets trapped in your blood, and you're like, what's going on? How come this isn't working, right? So dysfunctional mitochondria are at the root of this problem. At the same time, insulin resistance, when it is already present, causes mitochondrial dysfunction. So how could that possibly work? Well, if you're living in an insulin-resistant state because you've been eating, like we talked about earlier, a high-fat diet, or maybe you're eating a diet with lots of packaged and processed foods with artificial sweeteners, or you're not exercising, or you are doing a small amount of exercise, if any of those things are true, you develop insulin resistance over the course of time. As that insulin resistance progresses more and more and more, existing mitochondria that are functional become more dysfunctional over the course of time. And researchers have found this out. They take people and animals who are insulin resistant, and over the course of time, they find out that they develop more mitochondrial dysfunction. At the same time, they take animals who have dysfunctional mitochondria, and then they find out that one of the main primary symptoms is insulin resistance. So they go, well, which one came first? Is it the mitochondria that's causing insulin resistance, or is it the insulin resistance that's causing mitochondrial dysfunction? Okay, so this is like it's a tough question to answer because they're both related to each other, and you don't know which direction, who's pointing at who, or who's causing what. So the chicken and egg relationship is actually a double-headed arrow. What that means is that dysfunctional mitochondria influence insulin resistance, and insulin resistance influences dysfunctional mitochondria. So at all points in time, the two of these are talking to each other. And when mitochondria are unhappy, you become more insulin resistant and your glucose goes up and your insulin needs go up. At the same time, when your glucose and insulin needs are going up, then mitochondria have a tougher time surviving. And as a result of that, they become more dysfunctional over the course of time, thus creating a chicken and egg relationship in which the two of them cannot be separated from one another. Now, most people don't know this information and they think, oh, well, mitochondria are kind of important. I guess I could just exercise and, maybe that might help. But they don't realize that, yes, exercise is important. But remember, the food that you eat also influences your level of insulin resistance. So if you're exercising and getting your muscles to work more frequently, that's a good thing. But if your lifestyle is making you insulin resistant because you're eating a high saturated fat diet or a lot of animal products or a lot of refined processed sweetened sugars, then that's going to cause mitochondrial dysfunction. So you kind of want to do two things at the same time. You want to get a real solid dietary plan into action and use your muscle tissue at the same time. And as a result of that, you can escape this never-ending cycle that seems to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse over the course of time. Okay? So I say this all the time, and I'm going to say it 1,000 more times on this webinar. Exercise is a substitute for insulin. Exercise substitutes for insulin. And what do I mean by that? Okay. Robbie has type 1 diabetes. I have type 1 diabetes. We purchase insulin at the pharmacy. We then take insulin and inject it into ourselves and then use that insulin to help control our blood glucose values. We have to do this because we both have autoimmune diabetes, and other people that are living with type 1 or type 1.5 diabetes have to do the exact same thing. My wife, Kylie, my cats, those of you who are not injecting insulin, you do not have insulin-dependent diabetes. Your pancreas manufactures insulin, and that's a good thing. So regardless of whether you're taking insulin from a vial or from a pen, or whether your pancreas is manufacturing insulin, insulin is required for life. You have to have it inside of your blood, and if you don't have it, you will die. So insulin drives your blood glucose down, as you guys probably are world's experts on by now. When you perform exercise, exercise also drives your blood glucose down. Exercise gets your muscle tissue to become extremely active, and as a result of that, the amount of insulin required to get glucose into your muscles goes down. So you can either, at any moment in time, you can either say to yourself, all right, I guess I'm going to inject some insulin, or I'm going to force my pancreas to manufacture insulin to get my glucose to come down, or you can exercise. And that's why exercise is actually truly a substitute for insulin, because the two of them literally do the same thing. The more of this you do, the less of this you need. And that's the beauty of it. So let's take a look at this diagram. Now, this diagram, just for full clarity, comes directly out of the book. Okay, we wrote a book. We're going to tell you about it in a second if you guys want to hear about it. And this, we wrote an entire chapter on exercise, and we go deep dive into what exercise is and why it's so important. Now, I want to walk you through this diagram because this is this one took me a while to draw, and it's hopefully not too confusing. But here's a way to look at it. On the x-axis, you have time after exercise. Okay, so let's say that you finished your exercise right here at time equals 0. And then from that point onwards, you're moving forward 1 to 3 hours, 24 to 72 hours is over here. Okay, so this is from the time you're done exercising and moving forward. This is before you're done exercising over here on the left-hand side. Okay, now this is curve number 1, curve number 2, and on the y-axis we have insulin sensitivity. Okay, so here's what this means. If you are eating a high-fat and or high-protein diet, shown here on this bottom curve, what that means is that you start out with some level of insulin sensitivity shown right here. As soon as you begin exercising, your insulin sensitivity is going to increase, going to increase, going to increase, going to increase. This is all a good thing. It's all a good thing. And then at the time that you're done exercising is usually about the peak insulin sensitivity that you're going to experience, because all of the time that you've spent exercising is sort of accumulating, and you're becoming more insulin sensitive, and tissues are happier, your muscles happier, and your insulin requirements are going down and down and down and down and down. You get to this point where now you're done exercising. You did your Zumba class, you did You ran for half an hour, you were on the exercise bike, maybe you did a kickboxing class, you name it. You're done, it's time to go to the locker room, time to go home. So that's right here. From the time that you are done exercising, you put on your shoes, you put on your jacket, you start to go home, you take a shower. From that time onwards, your insulin sensitivity begins to decrease. Okay, so it starts to decrease, starts to decrease, starts to decrease. And then as time goes on, that insulin sensitivity is now moving back towards its initial starting point right here. So you're sort of decreasing your insulin sensitivity. It's coming down, it's coming down, it's coming down, it's coming down. And then eventually you get back to exactly where you started right here, okay, at the same level of insulin sensitivity as when you began. So the nice thing here is that exercise is what allowed your insulin sensitivity to come up, and it actually did not decrease at too quickly of a rate. As you can see here, within the first 3 hours or so, yeah, your insulin sensitivity does definitely go down. It goes down probably the most in that first 3 hours. And then from that point onwards, it's kind of a slow decline all the way back down to your initial starting value. So you do have some time before your insulin sensitivity is back down to square one. Okay, now this right here is shown as a high-fat and or high-protein diet. If you decide that you're going to eat a low-fat, plant-based, whole food diet like we advocate, a number of things are going to be different. Number one, your baseline insulin sensitivity will be higher. So instead of starting here, you start here, and that's a good thing. So your baseline level of insulin sensitivity is going to be higher, which means that even without exercise, your biological requirement for insulin is going to be lower, and your requirement for your pancreas to secrete insulin, or the amount of insulin that you have to inject using a vial, is lower, and that's a good thing. Now, you begin exercising. Exercise makes you more insulin sensitive, makes you more. Same thing. You're done with your Zumba class. It's time to go home. Now you're at your peak insulin sensitivity right here. Now, as soon as you start to go home and you enter this phase 1 afterburn again, your insulin sensitivity also decreases. So it starts to go down, starts to go down, starts to go down. And then eventually your insulin sensitivity comes all the way back down to its baseline starting value, which is pretty much exactly where we started right over here. Now, the difference between the bottom curve and the top curve is that your overall insulin sensitivity is higher. So basically you're shifted upwards at all points in time. Your baseline insulin sensitivity is higher, your peak insulin sensitivity is higher, and the time to get back to your baseline insulin sensitivity is also slightly higher. So that's a really good thing, which means that the total amount of time that you spend in a more insulin sensitive state is much higher than if you were eating a high fat and or high protein diet, as you can see right here. So there's a lot of people who believe that simply by exercising, that exercise is going to sort of like cancel out their high fat and or high protein diet, or that they can out exercise. It doesn't really matter what they eat because they're exercising frequently and they get this blip in this improvement in insulin sensitivity, and then it just kind of goes away. And they just do this over and over and over again. Today, tomorrow, next day, next day, next day, thinking that they can get away with eating a high fat or a high protein diet for a long period of time. But it catches up to them over the course of time. First of all, your insulin sensitivity is never going to be as high as it would be if you're eating a low-fat, plant-based, whole food diet. And as a result of that, what this means is that over the course of time, it's going to take a little bit more damage. It's going to take a larger toll on tissues all throughout your body. Less insulin is required here. More glucose can be transported inside of muscle tissue and inside of liver, and your risk for chronic disease goes way down, and your risk for all-cause mortality or premature death goes way down as a result of this. So this is a long-winded way of me saying, eat a low-fat, plant-based, whole food diet as your de facto baseline, no questions asked. In addition to that, if you exercise on top of that, then you can get much higher peak insulin sensitivity, and as a result of that, you can actually spend the majority of your life in an insulin-sensitive state, which is going to decrease your risk for chronic diseases and all-cause mortality. Woo! I just talked for a while. Is this making sense? I want to know from you guys. So in the chat box, say, yes, this makes sense, or no, I'm confused. I want to make sure that we're on the same page. Yeah. There's one question from Nick. What is it?
goes down during exercise. I think you feel like
Okay, so Nick asks, is insulin sensitivity actually going up during exercise, or is insulin utilization going down, making it appear as though you're more insulin sensitive? Nick, that's a very good question. The answer is both of them are happening at the same time. And the reason is because when you exercise, muscle tissues decrease the amount of insulin that they actually require. So they don't actually have to respond to as much insulin inside of the blood. And as a result of that, that means that your requirement for insulin at the level of the muscle tissue goes down. But in addition to that, the GLUT4 receptors on the inside of the cell, the GLUT4 vesicles on the inside of the cell, these are literally these little transport vesicles that the muscle cell manufactures. They manufacture more of these things. And these vesicles are sent right up to the plasma membrane, and they're basically like, go, get some glucose. And so as a result of that, more glucose can flood into the tissue. And each one of these vesicles literally opens up and traps glucose, closes, and then comes back into the cell. So you can think of it as like this little, little spaceship that just goes up to the cell surface, opens up, gives me glucose, and then it comes back in. So there's two things that are happening. The rate of glucose import is going up, and the rate of insulin interaction goes down. So you're getting more glucose for less insulin, which means that your insulin sensitivity is going up, okay? And it's not just that the muscle tissue is saying, I require less insulin. If that were the case, then yes, it would just be a utilization thing. But in reality, insulin requirements are going down as glucose import is going up, as glucose uptake is going up. And as a result of that, you're getting more glucose for less insulin. So you're actually gaining insulin sensitivity. Hopefully that makes sense.
So a lot of people in the chat box saying yes. Lots of yeses.
Cool. Okay. So there's a lot of things to think about here, and I'm going to move on from this. Okay. The next thing that I want to think about here is what are the best types of exercises that you can use at your disposal to maximize your level of insulin sensitivity. There's three fundamental different types of exercise. Okay. The first one is called cardiovascular exercise. Cardiovascular is just a fancy scientific word for description for referring to exercise that you can perform for long periods of time in a aerobic state that is sustainable. Hiking, biking, swimming, jogging, walking, running, okay? Types of exercises that get your heart beating faster, but in a way where you can actually maintain that pace for something like 15, 20, 30, 60 minutes, 2 hours, 3 hours, okay? So think cardiovascular exercise, elevated heart rate, long period of time, sustainable activity. Resistance exercise is the second type of exercise. Resistance exercise refers to a type of exercise that can also accelerate your heart rate, but doesn't necessarily have to. It can do it, but it's going to do it a little bit, but not nearly as much as cardiovascular exercise. Resistance means you are resisting gravity. Okay, so you're resisting gravity in the one of the ways you can do it is just by using your body as resistance. So if I were to do an air squat as an example, where I literally am standing up and then I squat all the way down and I come right back up, that is a form of resistance exercise because I am resisting the gravity imparted on my upper body and I'm allowing my lower body to resist that force. Push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, lunges, squats, any variation thereof, those are all resistance movements. In addition, if you go to the gym and you use some type of machine, whether it's a bench press, whether it's a squat rack, whether it's a pull-up bar, whether it's a bicep curl machine, whether it's free weights, whether it's a dumbbell, whether it's any combination thereof, if you're sort of either moving an external weight or you're resisting your own body's weight, then that classifies as resistance exercise. The third type of exercise is what's called combination exercise. Combination exercise is a combination of cardiovascular and resistance exercise together. So this is my favorite form of exercise because this is the type of exercise that gets your heart beating which is a good thing for your vasculature. It's a great thing for your heart. It's also a phenomenal thing for your muscle tissues because you're allowing your muscle tissue, you're forcing your muscle tissues to uptake large amounts of oxygen, and that is a very good thing. So cardiovascular exercise plus resistance exercise equals combination exercise. So the way to combine the two of these together into a more effective or most effective form of exercise is to do the two of them together. So if you've done something like a kickboxing class before, where you're like constantly moving your body and you're sort of moving around for like 30 to 60 minutes, but you're also performing resistance movements inside of that. Maybe you're jumping up and down, maybe you're doing some squats, maybe you're punching a bag, okay? Maybe you're just like swinging your arms in the air, okay? Maybe doing some lunges, any of those. It's cardiovascular plus resistance. The type of exercise that I've been doing for the last 2 years, CrossFit, okay? That is absolutely a combination of the two of them, okay? Today's workout as an example, you had to go do a whole bunch of running, and then I had to do a bunch of pull-ups, and then I had to do a bunch of bar lifting, and then I had to do a bunch of jump rope. And then I repeated that 3, 4, 5, 6, and I did that 9 times, okay? Cardiovascular plus resistance together gives you a really solid burn, and it's the most efficient form of exercise, okay? So at all points in time, the goal is to try and move towards combination exercise because it's efficient. It gets both types of exercise in at the same time, and it's going to have the biggest bang for your buck on your blood glucose values. But if you're currently not, you don't like exercise and this sounds too complicated and it's too intimidating, then don't worry about it. It's fine. Eventually we can work our way up there. What I want you guys to think about is what's the easiest thing that you can do today that's going to get you moving your body such that over the course of time you can move to more complex things. All I care about is you moving your body in some way, shape, or form. And what I do recommend to begin with is choose cardiovascular movements that are fun, that are doable for you, that don't require a lot of exercise, a lot of equipment. Okay, all you need is just a pair of shoes. If that's all you have, just get a pair of shoes and a friend, and then like go for a jog. That's fine. That's awesome. Okay, go for a hike with a family member. Go do it by yourself. Okay, you can easily perform cardiovascular exercise. This is the simplest thing to do because it requires literally no equipment. Okay, you can get complicated and you can buy a $6,000 bicycle if you want, but you don't have to.
They could listen to the Mastering Diabetes audio experience while they're doing that, Cyrus.
Well, there you go. There you go. You can listen to Robbie's voice lulling you into a state of hypnosis. You can also perform resistance exercise for free, and that's one of the reasons why I love it so much. Is that we've done some of these sessions before, and hopefully we'll do some more in the future. Where in the comfort of your own home, you literally just you need like a 3-foot by 3-foot space where you can jump up and down, you can do some air squats, you can do some push-ups, you can do some lunges, you can do some sit-ups, you can do all types of stuff. Zero equipment required. You don't even have to put on shoes if you don't want to. Okay? So again, this is free. This is free. This is also free. The idea here is we just got to get started doing something and then work your way over to as much combination exercise as possible. And in the process, your blood glucose will become more controllable, your insulin sensitivity will go up, and you will feel much, much better. So what I want to know from you guys in the chat box is what are your 2 questions. Number 1, what are types of either cardiovascular or resistance or combination exercises that you guys actually like? Okay, I want to know what you actually enjoy, and then we'll start there, and then we'll go to things that you don't enjoy, and we'll try and find a way to make it more fun.
Okay, let's see what we got in the chat box. What type of resistance exercise do you like? A rowing machine? Did you say resistance or any exercise?
Any, I don't really care. I just want to know
any
what you
exercise.
like.
Okay. Zumba, walking the dog. Cycling / tennis. I love that.
Cool.
Dennis says shopping.
Shopping. Funny guy.
I like it.
Funny guy.
Hey, that could be great exercise.
That could be.
Running, stair climbing, elliptical, hiking and walking the dog, adult cardio, weight machines, fast walking, stair climbing. This is good. This is good stuff, guys. This is good stuff.
Okay, cool.
Tai Chi.
Tai Chi. Okay. So now tell me, what types of exercise do you not like to do?
Okay. Type I don't like, so I know what you're saying, guys. I don't like blank. What do you not like? I still think the likes are coming in.
Okay. Ah, oh, we're waiting. Robbie's
I
waiting.
don't like machines. Okay, Patricia. Susan says she doesn't like weights. Let's see. What do you guys not like? I don't like jogging or lifting weights. Let's see.
Okay.
Somebody says she doesn't like. I think she's saying she doesn't like CrossFit or super hard workouts. Amy does not like the treadmill.
Okay. All right.
I hate jogging. Debbie doesn't like exercising indoors. I feel you on that. This is good stuff.
Okay. So it sounds to me like there's, each individual has a different type of, combination of things they enjoy and don't enjoy. What I want to know from you guys is how, if you currently don't exercise, how can you get started? You should literally just choose one form of exercise and go perform that and do that 3 days this week. Okay. If you already are exercising, think about what can you do to keep yourself active on a daily basis. And that's really the trick, is to be active as much as possible on a daily basis, and add just like 1 to 2% difficulty on a weekly basis. And if you're adding difficulty, at every point in time over the course of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, you can start to become stronger and fitter and more capable. And that in turn is going to have it's going to improve your blood glucose control.
Okay, so in the chat box, just type yes if you'd like to learn more about the proven way to reduce your fasting blood glucose and A1C. So we're going to talk about our book and why we wrote it and how it can reduce your fasting blood glucose and A1C if you want us to tell you about it. So write yes in the chat box.
I want to learn about this. You wrote a book?
It's unbelievable. It's brand new news, Cyrus. Brand new news.
I want to know.
Okay, I like seeing the enthusiasm here. There's a lot of yeses. This is great. This is great. So we have it in our hands. Here it is, guys. And so in the process of writing the book and really defining the Mastering Diabetes method, we've broken it down to 4 key components: low-fat, plant-based whole food nutrition, intermittent fasting, daily movement, which you just heard all about tonight, and decision trees. So I'm going to talk to you quickly about low-fat, plant-based whole food nutrition, and then we're going to spend a lot of time answering your questions tonight because we really enjoy that. So on the screen, you can see the type of food that we're talking about. It's colorful, it's vibrant, it tastes good, but it's also food that a lot of you have been told not to eat. So in the chat box, I want you guys to write the word skeptic if you're just a little bit concerned about being able to eat these foods and see better blood glucose readings, see a better A1C, lower your fasting blood glucose. Write skeptic in the chat box. I want to see how many people here are you're still a little bit like, I'm not sure. I don't fully believe you guys yet. Debbie's, and it's okay to be honest. You're not going to hurt our feeling, guys. Joan's a bit skeptical. All right. Let's see here. Skeptic about carbs. All right. Feel ya? Let's see. What else? Joala says she trusts us. That's good. Debbie says, I know it works. All right. Gina says, yummy, yummy, yummy. This is good. This is good. Let's see here. What else? Patricia says, I'm convinced, but my doctor told me that veggies and fruits are evil. Skeptic about carbohydrates. Okay, we have a little bit of a mix here. So let's continue. Let's go and talk about our traffic light food system here. So I'm actually going to read you guys some updates from the book on here. This is going to be on page 153.
You want me to stop taking my swim?
You know what? It's okay. You can keep it going, and I'll just add to each one. So the thing we're really excited about in this book is the opportunity we had to really take things one step further and really refine everything we were saying and have editors ask us questions that really forced us to make things even more clear. So we have a traffic light food system that makes it really easy to understand what to eat. So the green light category means eat as much as you want. And I saw there's some people who are skeptical. So Chris says, my doctor says no to carbohydrates. So this is the reality of what's going on in the world of diabetes health. You have two completely opposite camps. And we are telling you that you get to eat large amounts of carbohydrate-rich food and lower your A1C, lower your fasting blood glucose, gain energy, and want to move your body and enjoy the whole process. So the green light category, we have fruits, starchy vegetables, beans, lentils, and peas, intact whole grains. And those foods are listed first because we want you to emphasize eating those foods. A lot of people adopt a plant-based diet and they eat a lot of salads, they eat a lot of greens, and that's good, but they don't get enough energy. And even when they start eating fruit, even when they start eating some potatoes, they're scared of eating too much. And then they have a little bit, and then they're hungry an hour later, hungry 2 hours later. And the diet is just not working for them. And they don't have energy because they didn't eat enough food. Their calorie consumption went down. That's not going to help you. So in the green light category and in the book, we have really explained the science behind why you want to eat these foods and why they actually will result in you lowering your fasting blood glucose and lowering your A1C. Now, of course, green light foods include leafy greens, non-starchy vegetables, herbs and spices, and mushrooms. Very few people are going to tell you not to eat those. It's really the four categories at the top that are most controversial. Now, the yellow light category. So this, we have avocados, nuts and seeds. We also have nut and seed butters would be included in this category. Another thing we made clear in the book is that plant-based milks are included in this category. All soy products, so that's even edamame, the most whole intact version of soy. It's still 40% of calories coming from fat, and that's going to impact your insulin sensitivity. Tofu tempeh, olives. You got pasta alternatives, so those are things like bean pasta, lentil pasta, brown rice pasta. It's still good. Not as good as having the whole intact whole grain. We have dried fruits in this category as well. So that would be dried figs and prunes and stuff like that. So those are in the yellow light category. And we also put fermented foods in the yellow light category. So we have a whole section of that in the book, why it's beneficial, but why you want to be careful about having too much. So that's added in this book. Now, the red light category, we have red meat, we have white meat, eggs, all dairy products. We have fish and shellfish. So these are basically all animal products have been put in the red light category, which means limit or completely avoid. All right, that's what's happening there. And Cyrus talked about sweeteners earlier today. So high fructose corn syrup, even there's a lot of added stuff like sorbitol, maltodextrin, stuff like that. You want to avoid those. Coconut products, there's a lot of coconut products on the market right now, whether that's a coconut ice cream, coconut kefir, stuff like that. Then you have processed vegan foods. There's lots of veggie burgers out there right now. There's plant-based burgers and the processed burgers. But there's also, the more refined veggie burgers or the healthier veggie burgers in the frozen section. All this stuff, a lot of people are surprised, but we put it in the red light category. And these foods are not helping you reverse insulin resistance. So that's our simple traffic light system. And we can show some more pictures here. The food is delicious. All right. It is absolutely delicious. And believe us when we tell you, you can eat these foods and have absolutely fantastic blood glucose control, no matter what form of diabetes you're living with. And Cyrus and I are living examples, and we have hundreds and hundreds of case studies. Several of them in the book, and you do not have to worry about how much you eat. So look at the fruit on the screen. These are large portions because they're full of water content, full of water, full of fiber. And so you get to eat this bulk of food, which keeps you satisfied. And there's the whole science of that in the book as well. So what are the 10 things you're going to learn from this book. These are just, we had to pick 10, all right? I mean, it's really a heck of a lot more than 10 things, but this is what's going to happen. You're going to get your best A1C the next 3 months and maintain it for years. That's the key. You can do all kinds of short-term hacks to make things better in the short term, but it's not going to stick. You're going to reverse insulin resistance permanently and feel the best you felt in years. Eat more and weigh less, and you get to do it for the rest of your life. Again, it's not some short-term trick. You're going to learn how to eat the right foods in the right combinations. The book has 30 recipes. It has meal plans. So it's all going to be laid out very clearly. Okay? So the next thing here is that you will lower your cholesterol, blood pressure, and triglycerides. Right in the chat box, if you're either your cholesterol's high, your blood pressure is high, or your triglycerides are high, write yes. If any one of those three is true, please write yes in the chat box. I want to see how many people are affected by that right now. Because what you realize, we have quickly realized, looking at the research, insulin resistance, if you're insulin resistant, it comes along with a laundry list of other challenges. And that we are addressing the root cause. So I see yeses flooding in the chat box. All right? You're going to get full control of your blood glucose for the first time in years. Avoid long-term chronic disease risk. Again, as you're addressing insulin resistance, you're addressing those chronic disease risks. It's kind of fun how, we always love to talk about Dr. Gibson saying the body does not heal selectively. Okay, when you start changing your lifestyle, the body is going to be healing everything that needs to be healed in its perfect order, in its own decision-making process that's beyond our comprehension. And it just includes a laundry list of stuff. So let's see here. What else do I have? Okay. You're going to get to learn how to eat carbohydrate-rich foods and overcome food cravings. So this is a big thing. Okay, I want to know this in the chat box. Do you have challenges with cravings? Write cravings in the chat box. If you are having a problem staying away from some of those foods that are not making you feel well, they're giving you a higher blood glucose readings than you want to see, they know that they're impacting your A1C, super bad cravings. Yeah, it's a big deal. And when you have a nutrition plan that gets to the root of some of those issues, you are just shocked to see them go away, and the satisfaction that you get when you are eating primarily green light foods is pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. I love it. Gina says she craves chocolate. We'll give you some good chocolate recipes. We have 30 recipes in here. Intermittent fasting. There's an entire chapter on intermittent fasting, and you're going to get to know exactly how to move your body. So Cyrus kind of touched the surface, just scratched the surface on what we covered in exercise, in the exercise chapter in the book. So we're really excited about this. And we have some bonuses that come along with it. So the first one's going to happen on January 4th. All right. So if you pre-order the book, you get access to this kitchen masterclass. First one's happening on January 4th. It will be recorded. If you miss it, then you can get the recording. You can own the recording for life. Everybody will get the recording if they pre-order the book. And we're going to cover a lot of things. A lot of people, convenience is a challenge. Okay, so what foods you can batch prep? We're going to go specifically into fruits, but there's also other foods we're going to talk about that you can batch prep. Kitchen equipment, how to save money on produce, how to make your produce last longer, the specific teas that we recommend. It's really fun. We have a lot of stuff we haven't really talked about, and we're going to do that in these kitchen masterclasses. How to keep your food fresh, supplements. We're going to talk about that topic, which I know is an interesting one for a lot of people. So that's going to happen. The first one, again, January 4th. So make sure to get your pre-order. I just launched the box where you can look into that. And we also, we convinced our publisher to do one more special thing for you guys, which is to give you a free chapter. So we're going to get a sneak peek of chapter 3, the causes of insulin resistance. A lot of research, a lot of science was dropped in this chapter, and we think you guys are going to love it. So if you pre-order, you get access to this. Now, we would like you guys specifically to pre-order from if you can buy it from places other than Amazon, that helps us. So the book can be pre-ordered in a lot of different places. Walmart, Target, you can pre-order there. Barnes and Noble, any of your local booksellers. If you just walk into the local bookstore and tell them, "Hey, I'd like to pre-order the book and ship it to me," like it's very helpful. If you are international, you can order from the Book Depository. They're going to give you a 10% discount and ship it for free. So that's a really nice bonus. Free worldwide shipping. Worldwide shipping. Australia, Iceland. I wonder if they'll ship it to Antarctica, Cyrus. Do you think so?
Yeah, they did not say no.
There you go. Worldwide shipping. So you can pre-order in the Kindle format. You can pre-order in Audible. You can pre-order on iTunes Books or Apple Books. So anywhere books are available, you can pre-order. So we'd really love you guys to do that. And it's also a great gift, maybe something you can give to your doctor. So if you've already had a transformation, you're going to want the book, one for yourself, one for your doctor. So order your copy today. Pre-orders mean a lot. Pre-orders mean a lot. So, and if you buy it tonight, I want you to write in the chat box, "tonight" in all caps. I want to see how many people are going to write tonight. We want to get this book in a lot of people's hands. As you can see on the screen, we have some testimonials here. This is David Rivas. I mean, if you look closely, it's hard to see because the pictures are kind of small, but look at the left and look at the bottom right portion of the screen. He had a really, really dramatic turnaround, and you can do the same, guys. The same thing can happen to you. You might not need such a dramatic turnaround, but this stuff happens consistently. What else is on the screen here? We have more people. Just like, guys, we get testimonials every single day. There's like not a day that goes by where we don't hear somebody saying this worked. So it works. And success is contagious. So we have a great community happening in our coaching program, and on Instagram the community's growing. We have a free Facebook where people are getting a lot of results and interacting with each other. It's really fun. So on the screen here, this woman's A1C went down to from 6.1 to 5.3. So she turned herself into a non-diabetic, reversing type 2 diabetes. We have a woman on the screen here, A1C dropping from 7.3 to 5.9, going from type 2 to prediabetes, soon to be non-diabetic. Triglycerides are from 228 to 165. So everybody on the screen here who had written that they had high triglycerides, I know that's a whole topic. We write about it in detail in the book, and people are concerned about it. Oh, it might go up in the beginning, but long term, when you stick to green light foods and you follow the Mastering Diabetes method, triglycerides are going to drop. Same thing with cholesterol. So you see on the screen here, LDL went from 121 to 88. It's absolutely fantastic. So these results are consistent, they're repeatable, and we have even more testimonies on the screen here. This time in January, the A1C was 13.5, and they dropped it. Let's see, what did they drop it to?
6.
13.5 to 6. Type in the screen, type yes if you would like to see that.
Yeah.
You want to see your A1C drop like that? I mean, that is absolutely fantastic. All right, let's see the next one. Let's see, we have A1C was originally 7.2, and in just 3 months, it went to 5.9. Okay? Again, for all the skeptics here tonight, we straight up promise that it's going to work. Okay? When you follow the program as described in the book, the entire Mastering Diabetes method, these are the results. They're consistent, they're reliable. We published a research paper. The A1C drop was 2% in people living with type 2 diabetes. Correct, Cyrus?
That's exactly right.
Okay, we have another testimony on the screen here. This one, A1C went to 5.3, and it was originally 10. So it went from 10 to 5.8 to 5.3. Lost 45 pounds. and lower cholesterol, lowest cholesterol they've ever had. It also this works for obviously people living with insulin-dependent diabetes. We have a type 1 in the lower right corner there. Started out at 14. A1C is now 6. That's fantastic blood glucose control in type 1 diabetes. And the nurse was even asking her, how the heck did you do this? So this is what you can expect when following the Mastering Diabetes method. And we can answer some questions now. Boom. There you go. Shirley says, I would love to see my fasting glucose drop. Yeah, we would absolutely love to help you do that. No question.
Mm-hmm.
So Debbie says, does the book describe what a diet with 50% fat looks like? We absolutely do. There's a lot of graphics in there to also help you understand how much of certain foods to eat. So you saw some of the graphics in the exercise chapter that Cyrus showed you tonight. And we're really proud of the illustrations to really make it clear, the whole method. Okay. Hi, how do you prevent crashes with type 1? I still have hypos during exercise, even with a snack before. All right, Sophie. Do you want to answer that, Cyrus? Or do you want me to answer?
Okay, how do I prevent hypoglycemia when I exercise? Okay, so Sophie, we're gonna have to dig deep here because there's a lot of things that can cause hypoglycemia when you exercise. If you're living with type 1 diabetes, is that right, Robbie? Is it type 1?
Yes.
Okay, let me just turn this off real quick. If you're living with type 1 diabetes, one of the things that can trigger hypoglycemia while you exercise is if you're injecting too much insulin, meaning too much basal insulin. So if your basal rate is too high overall, that can definitely cause hypoglycemia, and it can get accelerated when you exercise. If you are connected to an insulin pump while exercising, I would definitely disconnect because that can be giving you extra insulin. And again, exercise is a substitute for insulin, not necessarily that smart. Sometimes if you're on a pump, you can suspend your basal for like 30 to 60 minutes before you exercise and then keep it off while you're exercising. And that can make a big difference as well. And then if you're injecting too much fast-acting insulin before you exercise, that can also cause it. So one of the things that I do all the time is I try and make sure my blood glucose is about 150 before I even start exercising. And if you try and exercise at like 120 or 110, and then you go hypoglycemic, oftentimes it means that you're not high enough to begin exercising. So some combination of less fast-acting insulin and less basal insulin is likely to solve this problem of hypoglycemic during exercise.
Absolutely. And I mean, something I'd like to add to that, again, something we cover in detail in the book, but the use of decision trees and really documenting what you're doing and seeing the ratios. So as you go through exercise and you do the correction, you document how much you needed to correct, and you can recalculate what was maybe a better dose of your snack or meal before you exercised. So that's where the decision tree is going to help you truly, truly iron that out with objective data. All right. I do exercise 4 to 5 days a week, and my A1C is 6. Why? I think we need a lot more information. If you're still here, your name is Maya. You want to give us a lot more info? Tell us what type of diabetes you're living with. Are you using medications? What does your diet look like? We'll see if we can help.
I mean, what was the comment? Give me the actual text.
I do exercise 5 to 4 days a week. My A1C is 6. Why?
Is she saying that she's unhappy that her A1C is at 6, or she's excited that it's at 6?
That's a good question.
I mean, the fact of the matter is, if you are living in an insulin-resistant state, your A1C will climb, and so if that is the case, then your average blood glucose is going to be high as well. So exercise is important. Don't get me wrong. We want you to exercise, but if your fasting glucose is high, if your glucose is high in the middle of the night, if you're living in an insulin-resistant state, that's going to elevate your A1C. And exercise is something that's good, but it has to be in addition to in our recommendation, a low-fat, plant-based whole food diet.
Okay. So Trevor says, Cyrus, can you give some tips on how you were able to gain weight while reversing insulin resistance and maintain glucose levels?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so here's a simple way to gain weight. I want to know type 1 or type 2, insulin dependent or non-insulin dependent, because it's different.
Trevor, let us know in the chat box.
Yeah.
Are you living with insulin dependent diabetes or non-insulin dependent diabetes?
Yeah, because it's going to make a big difference.
Trevor says non.
Non-insulin dependent diabetes. Okay. So the way to gain weight, if you're trying to gain weight, the easiest way to do it would be to add calories. Okay. So effectively, what you're trying to do is you're trying to add calories to your daily regimen. And if you add calories, then that's going to increase the chances of you incorporating those calories into your structure, into your frame, and then preventing you from losing weight. Okay. So there's only one way to lose weight, and that's to burn more energy than you take on. There's only one way to gain weight, and that is to take on more energy than you burn. It's just that simple. So if you're losing weight right now, or if your weight's stable and you want to gain weight, you have to increase the number of calories you're eating with respect to the number of calories that you're burning. You have to create a gap. And that gap of like 300, 400, 500 calories per day is what's gonna allow you to gain weight over the course of time. So I'm not suggesting that you eat 1,000 extra calories per day. I'm suggesting that you eat something like 300 extra calories per day, and you do that consistently over the course of time, and you are likely to gain weight. The 300 calories that you're eating, again, low-fat, plant-based, whole food nutrition, 100% of the time. If you do that, then you can preserve your insulin sensitivity, increase your insulin sensitivity, and it's going to decrease the chances of you actually becoming, having a high blood glucose. So low-fat diet, eat a ton of plants, eat a ton of fiber, keep your glucose nice and controlled, add 300 calories per day, and that will hopefully increase your body weight over the course of time.
Okay, so if we can like change one person's life tonight, that would be good. So I'm really curious about Trevor's case here. Trevor, you're living with non-insulin dependent diabetes and you want to gain weight. So sometimes that's a red flag for potentially type 1.5 diabetes. So let us know in the chat box, like, what's going on with your blood glucose? Is your fasting blood glucose very high? How long has this been going on? Let us know, because that's an interesting case, and we've helped a lot of people in this situation. And let's just see what's going on. So give us as much information as you can. Let's see what happens. All right, we have more questions, Cyrus. Maria, to my understanding, the type of exercise is important for a diabetic. Strength training, building muscle is more important / beneficial than cardio. Is this accurate?
Nope. So remember, go back to what I said earlier. Both types of exercise are important. There's no question about it, for different reasons. It is important to get your heart beating, and to get your heart beating in an aerobic zone for a significant period of time. 30 minutes per, 30 minutes at a time. That's cardiovascular exercise. It is also important to do resistance-based exercise so that you're increasing your muscle density, you're increasing your bone mineral density, and it's preventing you from getting injured in the course of time. Both of them have very profound impacts on your glucose responsiveness and your ability to use glucose as a fuel. So when somebody says resistance exercise is more important than cardiovascular exercise, it is not a true statement. Neither one of them is more important than the other. They're both important. They're both arguably equally important. And what I recommend you do is find a way to get both cardiovascular and resistance exercise into your regimen by performing some type of exercise that incorporates the two of them. And when you do that, then you're getting both the strength training aspect in addition to the cardiovascular aspect, and it's going to improve your glucose control and give you 1,000 other benefits at the same time.
Perfect. Okay. Joan says, I am mostly whole food plant-based, however, eat eggs and fish because worried about getting enough protein. So how about you talk about protein, Cyrus?
Okay, no, how about you talk about protein? You know protein inside that.
The protein conversation, it's important. Absolutely. We don't want to not address it's important, but it's dramatically been blown out of proportion. So if you follow a low-fat, plant-based whole food diet and you eat enough calories, you are going to get enough protein. It is a small possibility you might miss out on one amino acid or something in a little bit. You can find some nuanced people that are very concerned about it. But in general, protein deficiency is a non-issue. It doesn't happen unless you are undernourished as far as calories. So in the chat box, let me know if you've ever met a person who is diagnosed with a protein deficiency. Like I mean, I guess nobody's going to write anything, but if you are, like, let me know. Do you have a friend, an uncle, like some of your coworkers who, like, they came to work and said, you know what? My doctor diagnosed me with protein deficiency. Like, it just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. So, but again, beyond that general answer, you can go and look into what's required from the World Health Organization, from the USDA, and you can put your food intake into Chronometer, and you can understand exactly what protein you're consuming down to the amino acid. And you can make sure that you're hitting each and every one, and you can tweak some of the foods you eat if you want to adjust that. So getting enough protein, getting the right protein, getting the correct, combination is something you really, really don't need to worry about. It's really, really something not to worry about. And, you could also have a fun game. Let's say some people are like, you know what? I don't think I'm going to get enough protein on your diet. So go ahead, go do some pull-ups. Go do some pull-ups, do as many push-ups as you can, and write down, okay, this is my personal record of push-ups and pull-ups. See what you got. All right? Then start eating the Mastering Diabetes method. Start following the diet and see what happens in 30 days. See if you can do more or less. And if you're moving your body and you're being active, you're probably going to see you're going to be able to do more. You're going to be quite happy with your performance because you're cleaning up your diet. You're getting a lot of glucose to your cells. You're getting more active. And you're just going to improve across the board. So don't worry about protein. That's the simple answer there. Okay, I think we answered all the questions. Let's see here. Was there any new ones added? Okay, let's see if Trevor wrote back to us. I want to help Trevor. I don't think we heard from Trevor. I was looking.
Yeah.
He's there.
He's there. What did he say?
He said, that would be good. I don't have confirmed health food that's in my feet. And losing weight and urinating lots at night.
Can you hear that?
No, repeat that.
Fasting blood glucose is good. I do not have confirmed type 2 diabetes, but I have nerve pain. I'm peeing at night, and what else?
With CGM, that's good. But when he has carbs, he feels it.
Not seeing weight gain while working out. But I'm still not seeing weight gain while working out.
So nerve pain and excessive urination. I mean, I think Nurse Kylie here, I think, would tell us to go check with the doctor ASAP.
Yeah.
Look, we're not like here to diagnose people or something, but we certainly have helped a lot of people in a situation like this. And it's just such a red flag when somebody says, I'm underweight and trying to gain weight and I have diabetes symptoms. So please go to your doctor. And
Kylie's also going to send you, Trevor, the C-peptide article that we wrote that I think can clear up a lot of confusion about what may be happening with your pancreas. So let's do a little bit of investigation there.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, we also come across a lot of people who kind of like, they fear, I might have type 1, but it's so type 1.5. It's so scary that you kind of like, you try and avoid it. You kind of sweep it underneath the rug. And we're here to tell you that the most important thing you can do is go get objective data, like get facts. And that's what you learn in the C-peptide article. And then you can decide what to do from there. But not addressing something that's going on like this can only make things worse. It can only dig a deeper hole, and we don't want that for anybody. And we're two people here living with insulin-dependent diabetes, and can promise you that no matter what happens, if that happens to be what is necessary, you can still live a fantastic life. You live a better life once you have that information. Okay, so let's see here. I've asked for a C-peptide and they think I'm crazy. It's okay. So if you've asked for a C-peptide and the doctors won't write it, that's okay. You can buy it yourself. I think it's $49. Requestatest.com. You'll find that all in the C-peptide article, and you can take matters into your own hands and get that data. Same thing with an antibodies test. Oftentimes you could call your insurance company, and some insurance companies will consider an antibody test as a preventative measure and they will cover it. So my insurance company let me test 3 antibodies and I didn't have to pay a dime. They considered it preventative measure. So it's worth exploring. Just call your insurance company and see what you can get done there. Okay. Let's see. So Carolyn, this is a good question, asking about, does the book have something about anemia and stage 1 kidney disease? And I would say the book addresses kidney disease in some element, but it's really, what you'll learn in the book is how, when you're addressing insulin resistance, you are addressing these issues, including kidney disease. Would you agree with that, Cyrus?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's no question about it, because kidney disease is basically like it's an inflammatory it's a condition that results from chronic inflammation of your kidney. And chronic inflammation of your kidney can happen from having a high protein intake. It can happen from having a low intake of antioxidants. It can happen from having a high saturated fat intake. All of those happen when you're eating an animal-based diet. So when you transition to a more plant-based diet and you drop your total fat intake, you're reducing the amount of protein, you're increasing your antioxidant intake, you're increasing your fiber intake, and you're dramatically reducing the amount of inflammation that happens in your kidney. So your kidney is being called upon to perform less work, and as a result of that, it can function better, and it doesn't necessarily it keeps its function over the long term. So I'm a huge fan of teaching people that when, just like Robbie said, you can't heal selectively, meaning that if you're eating a diet that's going to make you more insulin sensitive, it's also going to improve your kidney health and your liver health and your brain health and your thyroid health at the same time. So I think it's a very simple way to improve your kidney health, and I'm I'm a huge fan of it.
Great. Okay. Let's see here. Let me look in the chat box. I know Kylie's answering a lot of questions, so I'm sure I'm behind on a lot of these. So if I do it twice, I apologize. Let's see. I think we've answered most of these. Debbie asking, is a 15% fat diet enough fat to still make your hormones? So the answer is yes, and you can also continue to get this tested. Again, one thing is, I just want to address this at large. A lot of people get concerned when making any dietary change, and there's a lot of questions that come up, and they're all valid and they're all good. But one of the best things that you can do along the way is continue to get objective tests. Just get things measured. And so a lot of cases, like I know a lot of people, they're still eating like really, again, it's not you, Deb, it's anybody in general, but like they're eating junk food, okay? Eating a terrible diet. And then all of a sudden they start cleaning up their diet. They start eating lots more fruits and vegetables. And then they start to worry about various nutrients, hormones, B12, iodine, zinc. Like it just, worries go on and on when they were never worried before. And you got rid of bad food and have added in really healthy stuff, which has far more nutritional value than what you're eating prior. And then the concerns come up. So I sort of want to call people out on that sometimes when it comes to the various concerns, and always know that regular blood work, regular checking, you can stay on top of all this stuff. We do go into detail in the book about fat-soluble vitamins and how much fat do you actually need per meal to absorb them? What does the research show? And we also debunk a lot of this misleading studies that make headlines of getting people really weird and really concerned about having to add added fat to every meal to absorb fat-soluble vitamins, which is completely not true. So that's in the book as well. And I think you guys will enjoy it. All right. Dawn phenomenon makes me afraid to begin. Carol, don't be afraid to begin. So, Carol, I assume you're living with type 1 diabetes. Write in the chat box if you're living with type 1. And we don't want you to be afraid to begin. It's 2020 is right around the corner. New year, new you. It's time to get started. And I think Cyrus and I can both attest to the fact that the dawn phenomenon challenges that we experienced in our early years of type 1 diabetes reduced on a low-fat plant-based whole food diet. The issue of that really high, morning spike for almost no reason as you become insulin sensitive reduces, or in some cases can like go away essentially. And you only need a small amount of insulin to treat the dawn phenomenon, and sometimes maybe zero insulin.
Mm-hmm.
Carol is type 2. Okay. Carol, you got this. You got this. I believe in you. Okay. So what else? Cyrus, you want to answer any other questions?
Okay. The question is, any information on the book about neuropathy and ED? The answer is we do mention erectile. We don't have any like direct passages about erectile dysfunction, but the reason why it's beneficial is because erectile dysfunction is a cardiovascular disease. Factoid. Viagra was first developed as a cardiovascular medication, and they happened to find out that in the testing process, they found out that Viagra was actually causing men to have more erections. So they switched it from a cardiovascular drug to an erectile dysfunction drug, and as a result of that, it's become a multi-billion-dollar drug. The reason it's not a cardiovascular drug, it's not classified as a cardiovascular drug, is because that's just the way that pharmaceutical companies have made it. But the truth is that it promotes vascularity. It promotes blood flow, and it just happens to be promoting blood flow to your penis, causing, decreasing your risk for erectile dysfunction. Point being is that anything that you can do to improve your cardiovascular health can also help your genitalia at the same time. One of the reasons that erectile dysfunction is so common is because it's a side effect of a impending cardiovascular problem that may or may not have manifested itself as actual heart disease yet. So yes, indirectly, the Mastering Diabetes book talks about erectile dysfunction, and if you improve your cardiovascular health, then you will also improve the function of your penis at the same time. There was another question about erectile dysfunction and neuropathy. We do talk about neuropathy as well, because neuropathy is nerve tingling, nerve damage. And nerves they get frustrated when the glucose level is high. So it's very common for people with any form of diabetes to experience nerve tingling because nerves can get damaged very easily. So controlling your blood glucose is paramount. We talk about it, again, indirectly in the book, and it's something that you can greatly benefit from. We also have a podcast episode about how to mechanically improve nerve damage, and that is called hydrotherapy. So go look on our podcast for the hydrotherapy episode. It was one of the first ones we ever did, and hopefully you can get some really cool information there as well.
Perfect. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Well, I guess we can do one more thing. I think you already covered this, Cyrus. We'll do it one more time because this definitely is something that pops up repeatedly. So we'll address it again. Susan says, did I miss them answering why blood sugar goes up with exercise?
You're right. We didn't actually have time to get into that. I'm gonna defer on that question right now, because in order to actually answer that question, we're gonna have to go into sort of like a deep dive. So you're right. I did not cover that in this webinar. We can maybe cover it on a following webinar. But it is kind of there's many reasons it can happen, and it's going to take another 20, 30 minutes to fully explain it. So I apologize for that.
Stay tuned for the next webinar. We'll make some time for it then. And let's see here. I think we answered pretty much all the other questions. So this has been great. Really solid participation tonight. I saw many people write tonight in the chat box. So if you haven't already picked up a copy of the book, make sure to pre-order it. Make sure to get it from different sources. That's really helpful, and help us reach our goal here on our pre-order sales.
Cool. Thank you so much for attending here, guys. Appreciate it. We hope you had a good time, and The book's got a ton of more information in there. So if you haven't already picked up your copy, just like Robbie said, go for it. And we will see you next time on the next webinar.
See ya.